Welcome back to the 10 Tabs Open podcast. This is Alex Howell, and today on episode 11, we interviewed Alayna Howard, who is an amazing young woman who currently works for the nonprofit, the Halo Foundation. And if you want to go visit their website, it's haloworldwide.org. And Alayna is their Kansas City Program Facilitator, working a lot with the Learning Center here in town. But Halo is a worldwide organization. They have done things internationally, obviously, because that's worldwide. And then they're also located, their headquarters is in Kansas City, but they're in Jeff City, Portland, New York, all kinds of places. And as you listen to the organization, I think the number one thing that you'll appreciate, at least I did, was that their organization really focuses on giving young people the ability to feel more empowered. A lot of times they'll see someone that has come from we'll say just a not so great home environment, and I can only imagine what that must feel like for somebody to come in and kind of be in that place in their life. And somebody like Alayna basically really is there to help them to feel empowered, to help them kind of get a family that maybe they don't have right now. And it's a very good interview. She's a very eloquent speaker. She graduated with honors from Park University in Parkville, Missouri, which is right next to Kansas City, and has traveled the world and done all kinds of things. So she's a great person, an amazing interview, and I know you all are gonna love it. So enjoy. Always awesome. All right, there we go. Okay, we're good. Yeah, as long as I can see the little bit of space on that, and I've got the two lines, we should be good to go. Awesome. So, Alayna Howard from the Halo Foundation. What is your title there?
My title is Program Facilitator.
Awesome. And what does that mean?
So that means, well, backstory first.
Yep.
So the Program Facilitator runs the Kansas City programming that goes out of the Learning Center.
Okay.
So we have a lot of different programs worldwide. Oh, should I lean closer?
No, you're good.
Okay, I'm going to start that again.
You're fine. I was adjusting my settings because I was having a little trouble, but you're good.
But we offer a lot of different sorts of programming, but in Kansas City right now, we just have the Learning Center.
Okay.
And so the Program Facilitator for that really worries about, I'm sorry,
You're fine.
It's
all good.
Just a little different.
Oh,
but,
it's all good.
the Program Facilitator mostly just does the scheduling for that, but there's a lot more that goes into it. So it's making sure we have meals at all our programming, actually scheduling the different workshops that we do, bringing in specialists who can teach our kids a new skill and that sort of thing, and then finding volunteers who can help us make sure everything's running smoothly.
Gotcha.
As well as interacting with new groups to bring in new partners who can then bring in more kiddos.
Nice.
So we can reach more people.
Perfect. You'll get used to it. It's okay. So basically what it sounds like is you're almost the operations director. Like, it sounds like you're kind of in charge of getting every single, like, it's scheduling to me is always one of those things. Like, I think people think of it like when you watch The Office and Dwight scheduling Saturdays, who gets to work weekends.
Right.
But that's, I mean, your job is much more complicated than that. It's making sure not only that somebody is scheduled to be there, but that kids are there, that the product is, I mean, not product, but food, like everything is in that moment, which to me sounds like enjoy being in operations. So
Yeah, I mean, it sort of is, but specifically for the Learning Center, that's just like one part of the overarching Halo umbrella.
Gotcha.
But yeah, pretty well, I just make sure everything within the Learning Center is running smoothly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And so the Halo Foundation, when I was looking at the website, I keep trying to think of a different word to describe it, but the first time I logged on to it, when I was researching to see, to have you come on, I looked at it and I was like, this is a very broad definition of an organization. It really seemed like it was, we're here to do good things, and it kind of listed a few different areas, but for the most part it was helping kids. And I just couldn't find specifics, but correct me if I'm wrong, that seems to kind of be the point of it. It's almost it fills the gaps of a lot of organizations. I mean, one of the paragraphs that I read on there, and I can't remember if it was the comment from the founder or if it was on the About Us page, but it was, we try to make organizations that are trying to do the right thing talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be a big part of it. So your founder sounds like she kind of had an experience when she was in college. It drove her to do this. Mm-hmm. And is that kind of the inspiration why you got to be a part of it, or what was your side?
So my side of it, well, I attended Park University, mm-hmm. and part of a requirement for the honors program there was service learning. Mm-hmm. And so I had originally gone to school to be an English teacher. It
Gotcha.
was kind of just what I picked.
Yeah.
And for the service learning, we had to do something that had to do with our major. And mm-hmm. so just between research and recommendations from Park, I found Halo, mm-hmm. And started working there as a volunteer.
Gotcha.
And eventually, I fell in love as soon as I walked in.
Yeah.
And so I moved into the role of volunteer instructor. So I had 2 different workshops that I was running every week and that sort of thing.
Wow.
So I was doing like the lesson planning and all of that for that. And then I never really met the CEO. I kind of stepped back for a while whenever college started to pick up and get busier.
Yeah.
But I still was connected with a lot of the people that I knew from there.
Gotcha.
And so back in February, when I saw that they had a job opening, I was like, I'm probably not even qualified for this, but let's just see, because it was really, I really loved it. It was kind of what I wanted to do after college anyway.
Yeah.
And so I was able to get involved, and now I essentially am managing what I was doing before.
Nice.
But if I was going to describe like Halo as an organization and what our goal is, I think fill the gap is a really good way to put it, because that is, except it's less about pulling partners together necessarily, and more about filling in the gaps for individual kids.
Okay.
So thinking about the fundamental things that you learn from your family, right? Or the resources that you can get from a family, right? So if you're going to college but you're still able to live at home, that's a huge step above having to be in school and also paying rent, right?
Yep.
So just trying to help fill in the gaps that kids are left with whenever they don't have that solid family foundation. Like Halo works to be that foundation.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah, and that's one of those things, like, it takes a lot to describe that model online, and then you have somebody sitting in front of you and it's like, okay, here's an example, this is what we do, like the college example. Yeah. That's amazing. And so how do the kids find you? Do you find the kids? Do you get connected with them through different organizations?
So before I came on, there were 2 shelters that we were working with.
Okay.
And we've had those partnerships for 9 or 10 years at this point.
Gotcha.
With Restart and with Salvation Army.
Okay.
And when I came on, I started connecting with people who have been reaching out to the organization and wanting to use our resources, but we haven't really had the staffing to do that yet.
Right.
So part of my role this summer has been reaching out to new shelters, going on tours, kind of figuring out what they're all about, and then, again, filling in the gaps as best we can.
Gotcha.
So we have one new group that we're working with now that's a domestic violence shelter, and they have a lot of resources. Like, the kids who come there are coming in with a parent as they're escaping a bad situation, and they are provided with food, a place to stay, that sort of thing, counseling that they need, and can pretty well stay as long as they want, as long as they're following the rules. And this group, to help meet the kids' needs properly, also has their own school under their roof.
Gotcha.
But since it's summertime, they don't have a lot for the kids to do that's fun.
Yeah.
You know, like, they've got their school and they've got like a summer camp that they call it going on, but they don't have much more to do with the kids.
Gotcha.
So we have been coming in every couple of weeks to do an art workshop, just for something that's new and fun for the kids to do, new people for them to interact with, that sort of thing, right? So it's about assessing what an organization needs and what their kids are needing, and filling that in the best way that we can.
Nice. Well, I assume in that situation too, not only are you giving them, like, not only is it a help for somebody that either, you know, is maybe an orphan child or something like that, but you're also providing them good examples too, because they probably didn't come with a great example on one side, at least.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say that part of our art workshops, we actually call them our art and life skill workshops, because
Gotcha.
we try to base them per month around different kinds of life skills.
Nice.
So for the month of July, it's respect. So throughout the workshop, we are practicing respect.
Gotcha.
So instead of grabbing something whenever you need it, you're asking someone, please may I borrow that?
Right.
And saying thank you and that sort of thing. So just choosing one skill like that to focus on for the whole month, and ensuring that at least while I'm with the kids, they're able to practice it.
Yeah.
In case that's something that hasn't come up until now.
Nice. Yeah. Is the art workshop the thing I saw online where your sister had come in and was painting faces or something like that?
So that was a little bit different.
Okay.
That one was we call that our I Defy the Odds photo shoot.
Gotcha.
And that one we brought in some girls that we have met through shelters in the past.
Yeah.
Like they've come in with one of our partners, and then part of our goal is to maintain contact with the kids. Mm-hmm. So this was a group of young ladies that we've maintained contact with. Gotcha. And they came in, and for some of them it's their very first time, but they got to get their makeup done professionally, their hair done professionally, nice. And then like a professional photo shoot too.
That's awesome.
Really just focusing on empowerment and also giving them that experience, because a lot of girls do get that for their senior pictures or something, you know, right. Like they have that experience, but if you've never had that, it can be a really fun and confidence boosting thing to experience for the first time.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, in that particular situation, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, these were, a lot of them were younger girls, mm-hmm. and they have you and your sister, who you're obviously a college graduate. Is your sister's in college now?
She just graduated high school.
Just graduated high school. Okay, so she's on her way. But I mean, you're in that age where you're not coming to somebody and you're, you know, so much older that they look at you as an authority figure, mm-hmm. as much as this is somebody that I really look up to. This is somebody I can look to and say, like, they're doing the right thing. They're helping me, and it's fun to hang out with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think about that with my brother. My brother is technically my half brother. We're separated by 10 or 11 years, depending mm-hmm. on the time of year. And that was always like his role for me, was he was just old enough to not be like parent age, mm-hmm. but he was cool.
Yeah. Which I would say is part of our goal in interactions with the kids too. Mm-hmm. So first of all, like our dress, we always try to be dressed in mostly business casual attire, mm-hmm. so that the kids have a good example of that.
Nice.
Right. Just little things like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You're
I
good.
had a different direction I was going with that.
It's okay. That's the whole point of this thing.
But yeah. And that was also part of what made me like Halo so much whenever I started as a volunteer, mm-hmm. was that in situations where you are officially a teacher or officially their caseworker or something like that, you are still an authority figure. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of these kids, especially ones that are coming from marginalized communities, they haven't had the best experiences with authority figures.
Right.
So being able to be someone who is just there to be nice, make sure they're having a good time, and then also being like kind and professional and that sort of thing, mm-hmm. that's modeling those good behaviors, that's showing them that there are people they can trust, and it's giving them someone who, if they develop that trust, they might be more willing to come to me to talk about a problem than they would with the other adults in their life.
Yeah.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
great. I would never fit in that role. It'd be awful. I'd be like, it's okay. But so in Kansas City, you know, with the Halo Foundation, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. With the Halo Foundation in Kansas City, I saw online that there's only a couple of you guys here right now. Is that right, or are there more? I mean, I know you probably have a lot of volunteers, but as far as like positions within the organization, I think I only saw like 3 profiles.
Yeah. So in terms of actual staff members, in Kansas City, we have our program director, Carly, mm-hmm. The chief operations officer, Nicole, and then the chief, I think she's the operations director,
gotcha.
Is Chelsea.
Gotcha.
So those 3 are like our full-time staff, and then myself and a woman named Albany. She's like a licensed counselor on our staff as well.
Okay.
So the 5 of us are the only staff in Kansas City,
gotcha.
And then we have larger staff in other areas because worldwide we have more fully functional homes,
gotcha.
That sort of thing.
So is this one trying to grow then to get to that level, or is this is it a more focused arena in Kansas City?
So our goal is to go into a community and assess its needs and, again, fill those gaps as best we can. So in Kansas City right now, based on survey information, there are between 3,000 and 4,000 homeless youth in Kansas City at any given time. However, that does not account for the people who didn't take the survey or the people who weren't honest on the survey, and it doesn't account for the kiddos who are couch surfing at all. So that number could look more like 6,000, honestly. Yeah. And at this time, there are between 35 and 40 beds for those kids available on any night. Yeah. So we started out needing more of like a learning center type programming for the shelters that are in the area. Mm-hmm. But within the next year, we're hoping to break ground on our capital campaign, which will put 1 boys' home and 1 girls' home in Kansas City with 24 beds each.
Great.
Yeah. So that's our ultimate goal right now.
That's fantastic. So what's your capital campaign look like? You said it's going to be in the next year. Yeah. Is that something that you're rolling out currently, or is it something you're working on to bring it forth? I mean, I know anytime you want to give capital to a nonprofit, happy to have it. But as far as like the actual campaign, one of the guys that I had on here first, his name's John Teasdale. I met him through the Kansas City Club, and my wife and him were in a program called Centurions, which is a Kansas City leadership-based program from the Chamber of Commerce. And John kind of had a jaunt into the for-profit world, and I just don't like. He's just this amazing human being, and it just was not his style. And so he went right back to the nonprofit world, and he works for Literacy KC now.
Okay.
And but that was one of the things that he's in charge of, is kind of that fundraising thing, because I think he knows everybody in this town. But that talking to him was the first time I really saw at least a sneak peek behind the scenes of exactly what goes into some of these campaigns. And it's a ton of work. So that was why I was asking, is it something that's going on now that you've worked on, or is it something that you're working on and then it's going to be rolled out soon?
Yeah, it's ongoing.
Okay.
I'm not sure how far we are into our fundraising aspect of it. That's not necessarily my role, but I think it will be roughly 7.25 million by the end of it.
Great.
And we are in the process. You know, we've made pretty good headway on that. And again, I think breaking ground in 2020 is a reasonable goal. So, and we've already secured a space. We have 37 acres, all that good stuff.
Oh,
so
wow.
we're just, at this point, it's more about waiting on like architecture firms to tell us what's next. But yeah, I think in terms of fundraising so far, we rely a lot on private donors for all of our operations. We don't really get much funding from the government or anything, because that saves us a lot of red lines.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I think we had a group come in who was talking about maybe trying to fund one room. So put in like a culinary center so we could do cooking classes or the woodworking or something like that. Yeah. So I think we're going to try to scoop together as many of those groups as we can and build it from there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What a good idea to have somebody that, I mean, I'm sure that their background is in that, or their passion is in that, and to be able to combine that with giving is pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we've talked about kind of the first part of what brought you in. It was a program in college, but I looked before, I would like look at your social media profile with just so much envy, because it looked like you were just traveling the world on a constant and consistent basis. I was like, this is the person I wish I had been when I was in college. So what was I know when we spoke last, which was a couple of years back, but you were in several different programs. You were already traveling. What, as far as like Alayna Howard, what got her from I'm in, the west side of Missouri, way up north, to I want to go everywhere on earth?
It was honestly sort of an accident. So I'm going to talk about Park University again, because I really can't talk it up enough. But I got a pretty good scholarship to there, which included a stipend to study abroad.
Oh,
and
nice.
Even when applying for the scholarship, I didn't even really factor that in. Like it just wasn't. I went to small town Missouri, so study abroad, travel abroad was never really something that was pushed on me, and so it just wasn't even in my head as an option. Yeah. But when I saw that stipend, I was like, huh. And so I kind of looked into what would be the most cost effective, and did it for one summer and loved it, and decided that was what I wanted to prioritize forever.
Nice.
But also Park has, I think, 49% international students. So they have kind of...
That's a huge percentage.
Oh, yeah. They've got like all these reaches all over the world. So you can apply different Park scholarships to tuition abroad and that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. They really made it a lot easier than I would have assumed it was before I got to do it. Yeah. So I had the opportunity to study abroad for a full summer in Greece and then a second full summer in France. And that was a really good experience. And I really do think it solidified my need to give back a little bit, just because I have been, I worked hard, but I've been set up with a lot of good opportunities. Right. And so when I got to the end of it, I was like, I want to see if I can help everybody else have the cool life that I had. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, pretty much everybody, I won't say pretty much, everybody that I've ever spoken to about travel has said, and I think this is one of the truest statements that's there, and I keep telling myself I'm going to look up the quote to confirm it was Mark Twain, but he had this quote where it was like, if you want to cure, the racial divide, the racism, and all of these different things that we don't like about each other, just travel. Travel opens your mind to so many things, because you go over there and you're like, what I'm seeing is not the CNN headline. What I'm seeing is not what Fox News is telling me. these are people, these are amazing, different people who are living a very different life than mine. But you start talking to individuals, you start interacting with, a shop owner here, the person at the front desk at the hotel. It's like, it's not a country on a map. It's a piece of land filled with amazing people. And did you find that when you were abroad? Like, did that just kind of click one day? Like, oh my God, I have been thinking about things in a very different way than I probably should.
Yeah, it really did feel like I went from only seeing the world like through the windows, the tiny little windows in the front of my head.
Yeah.
It felt like my whole skull just fell down and I could see everything now.
Yeah.
Like it was some crazy moment where I had a cool interaction with a stranger on a train, and we didn't even they didn't speak English, so it wasn't like we had a real conversation or anything.
Right.
But I was like, wow, everybody's just a person. Everybody's just out here trying their best.
Yeah.
Like it's not anything to be frightened of, I
No.
guess.
Not at all. And I mean, it's the same. It's not the same thing when you travel abroad as it is when you travel to different places. I would say, with the possible exception of New York, when you go there, for me, New York was too much. Like, that was one of those places I went to. I walked down Broadway and went, I could never do this. This is just one place on earth I cannot be. There are too many people there. I can't see the sky very well. But for the most part, you really look at, cities like that and you see the interactions between different cultures. But when you go over and it doesn't matter if you travel to Europe and you're let's say you have a light complected skin like we do. If you travel to Europe and everybody looks like you, it's still a very different experience because they're doing things in a different way. They're speaking a foreign language. And I think it's good for people who are normally in the minority to get over to different places where they're kind of pushed out of their comfort zone, because you start realizing that there's a huge positive in human interaction. And I just thought that was amazing. So yeah, when I saw you travel, I was like, I got introduced to traveling outside of the country, like basically not the lake, which is how I know you, not Table Rock Lake, not going somewhere just because it has a lake where there are a bunch of boats with people you already know. I really got introduced to travel when I was in college. Nikki, who's now my wife, we had only met 2 months prior to this happening, but we got our entire families to agree to to travel to Costa Rica, and not like hotel resort Costa Rica, like Manuel Antonio on the coast. The closest like real town was Capos, and that was 4 miles in and didn't look anything like what anything does here. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. And I came back from that and I had the same thing. It was like, I don't know what bug this is, but it just bit me like crazy. So now, anytime we can think about traveling, it's like, where can we go to that's not close? How far away can we go? The only place I think my wife has said she will never want to go that I really want to is Antarctica. So talking about human interaction, I want to go to the place where there are 0 humans, apparently. So where have you traveled? Because you just got back from a place not too long ago, didn't you?
Yeah, I went. That time I was really just in Greece.
Gotcha.
I mean, I had a few hours in Frankfurt and in Amsterdam,
Okay.
and I'd never been to either of those places, so that was cool. But this time was really just to see friends that I have met from other times traveling.
Nice.
But yeah, that was cool. But I've gone to school in Greece and France, and then I went to England for a week for a poetry program. And then I've also been to Spain, Morocco, and Italy.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah, it's really cool. I really would encourage anybody who has the means to take at least a couple weeks and stay in one place that is totally different to you. Like, make yourself have to go out and buy things from people who don't speak your language. Like, teach yourself a few words so that you can be more polite in those interactions.
Yeah.
If you've never had to use public transit before, like, use that to get around. It really is like character building to suddenly have to walk a mile somewhere to get on a too small train or something to go see some of the most beautiful sights in the world. Like,
exactly.
It's really eye-opening, and I do think that everybody should experience it at least a little bit, because it really will change the way you view other humans.
Yeah. Well, it's always amazing to me too when you go, and this is a completely Kansas City, this is a Kansas City issue without question, but it's a lot of different places. In Kansas City, we have I've said this for years, I hate our downtown, not because I hate downtown. I love my city. I hate the loop. I hate the 6, 70, 70, 35, 29 just circle, because it just completely destroyed having a large downtown. And so when you go to a city like Denver, or you go to a city like, Boston's probably a bad example because that's an East Coast town built around the harbor and everything else. But when you go to like Denver, Pretty much the exact same idea as us, right in the center of nothing, right before the mountains, whereas we're kind of a trade route because there are river crossings that hit. But you go to Denver, and I walked a mile and a half to get somewhere, and it was just no big deal. Whereas here, it's like, no, you got to get in the car. You can't do that. If I've got to walk from the river market to the north side of Crossroads, I'm taking a car. And it's the dumbest thing in the entire world. It's an easy walk. So, I mean, to me, that was one of the things that travel opened up to, was just like, I don't know what genetically idiotic thing I have going on, but the idea that I can't walk is disturbing. Because I think we always joke about it, but we went to Italy a few years back. It was right before we had Connor, and Nikki wasn't pregnant yet. We got both of our sets of parents to go to Italy, and we stayed for a couple of days in Rome, took the train up to Florence, went back into Tuscany, and pretty much just went to all the sites in Tuscany, and then stayed in Florence for the last part of it. We didn't gain any weight, and we ate pasta all day long, and it was because we walked miles and miles a day. It was just like, if I eat, a half of a cheeseburger here, I gain 5 pounds. Why? Because I'm sitting on my butt half the time. So I don't know. That was totally a random part of the conversation, but it was just one of those things you look around and you're like, we could probably do this. Yeah. This is normal for most people.
In Florence, you don't have a choice. Like, all the streets are too small, and they don't have any kind of public transit really.
Yeah.
So you really do got to walk everywhere. But
even better story about Florence. We rented cars when we were in Tuscany. We had to return them in Florence. We had to drive as Americans through the street, it wasn't even the streets. It was like, even for the streets you were talking about where they're tiny, these were like the back streets of those streets is where GPS took us. Like, we looked it up and it was like, how do you get there? And it was just this jagged circle trying to get us to this location. And so if you've ever seen The French Connection, or I think it's one of the it's some bank robbing movie with Mark Wahlberg and Charlize Theron, they take little bitty like cars, and they're just running through these streets. It looked exactly like that. It was just the three of us. It was me and my wife in one, my dad in the other, and then her parents in the third. And we were just almost taking people out trying to return these freaking cars. And as soon as we pulled in, the guy was like, do you guys want to pull around the corner and get gas and come back? It'll be cheaper. It was like, you could charge me $1,000 for a 12-gallon tank of gas. I would pay it immediately. I never want to get in that car again. Yeah, Florence it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Everybody I've spoken to that's gone to like Rome or Florence and Florence likes Florence more. They just like the sights of Rome, but then as soon as you get done with those, you're like, let's stay in Florence. But I never want to drive there again, ever. I'll walk 10 miles to get one direction. It's fine.
The further south you go, the worse the drivers are, too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So we were on, and I can never remember the name of it, but the bridge. Mm-hmm. The bridge there. Our hotel was right on the bank of that river, and I think it was the north side. Mm-hmm. We got into the south side, I think, one time with a taxi, and I was like, I'm good. I don't need to go back here, because it was just crazy. It was a madhouse. And like where we were going was like you'd go from an alley into a giant square. It's like, this is beautiful. I'm just going to stay here for now. But yeah, that was I had to throw the Florence story out, because to this day, like, it gets my heart racing thinking about the streets of Florence. And that was within 2 hours of us being in Florence too. It was like, I really hope the rest of this goes way better, because that was awful.
That's great.
So with the organization that you're with, and kind of with the travel bug, do they have a pretty good understanding of like a work-life balance there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even so I think I started with them in the end of April, mm-hmm. and I had booked in January the trip that I went on in June to just go visit some friends in Greece, mm-hmm. and they were so understanding. Like, they really awesome. Usually have a policy where you only get a couple of vacation days if you're part-time, and you can't request off anything within the first 90 days. And I was like, I didn't even really plan on getting this job. Yeah. I had no idea that this was even going to be an opportunity, and they were so nice about it. They were like, yeah, go on your trip. That's fine. Like,
awesome.
Yeah, so it was really cool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What the transition from, because I went through a really weird thing when I transitioned from college to workforce, because I graduated in 2009. Giant recession happened, and I had this wonderful degree in personal financial planning. So it was in some ways the best time to come out, because I went as a financial advisor. Everybody's money had dropped off. So I could just say, give me a chance. What's the
Yeah.
worst that could happen? Because it's probably not going to happen again.
Right.
But at the same time, like it was an industry that was really difficult. It was all commission based. I had no salary, no anything. And I would not have been able to succeed in that industry, nor the one that I'm in now, which is real estate, if I didn't have my wife. Because there are times where, like this past year, I worked for 13 months and I got very, very little money, like horrific money. And then one day, or 1 month, everything closed within 4 weeks that I've been working on for a year. So I had this month that's like, yeah, I made this much per month. And people would be like, wow, that's incredible. It's like basically my salary, but yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So it's always strange to me because I didn't have the traditional college environment. I went from community college where I had an apartment off campus in Sedalia and a theater scholarship to going to the University of Missouri where I again lived off campus in a house. And I never had the interaction. It seems like I have to live vicariously through people like you and my niece, because she has the traditional college experience in a dorm, sorority, travel, doing all of those things that I didn't. Mm-hmm. So what was it like for you to go from, I mean, I know you were an incredible college student because your parents brag on you all the time about it. But so when you go from that to workforce, I think a lot of people, especially with, we'll say younger generations, and the millennial tag is always put on there. They think like, well, if you see this generation, they're not going to work out. Mm-hmm. Like, you not only were an incredible student, you then transitioned into something that you are now passionate about. What was that like, that period of time between crap college and now I found my passion, now I found my calling?
I think my experience is probably a little bit different, because if you had asked me even like my second year of school after I had already found Halo, if you had asked me what it was that I wanted to do with my English degree, I probably would have tried to describe exactly what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. I just wouldn't have had the vocabulary or the context to do it.
Gotcha.
So I think Halo was always part of my plan, but I had planned more to be there as an intern in a probably unpaid capacity. Gotcha. And I would go back after a few years of working and saving money. So there was about a year in between when I graduated and when I started that I was just bartending. Gotcha. At Stone Canyon in Parkville,
which is the best pizza ever, outside of Shakespeare's in Columbia.
But yeah, so I spent about a year working at Stone Canyon, just full time, as many hours as they would give me.
Nice.
And so transitioning from that into a job where it is sort of like school again, because I need to go and be alert for several hours at a time, not able to just, put on the mask and wait tables as you can, So yeah, it all happened really quickly because I wasn't planning on it at all. It just kind of fell into my lap and then kept working out the way I needed it to. But yeah, it was different. It has taken a little bit of funny scheduling to kind of form that balance now between Halo and part-time at Stone Canyon.
Gotcha.
But I would say that it, at this point, is pretty similar to school, because while I was in school, I was working there the whole time and balancing classes, then homework, then regular work, right? And now it's basically just work life and then regular work minus the homework.
Gotcha.
So I kind of feel like it has fit well. It took me a while to figure out that you don't have to go home from work and keep working.
It's a nice feeling when you figure that one out.
I think there were a couple times when I was returning emails at like 11 o'clock at night, and they were like, hey, take time for yourself. You don't have to do that.
That's awesome.
So yeah, learning how to schedule my days so that everything kind of works out and fits into that was interesting, but I really like it now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you still wake up with since you graduated, with the nightmare that you forgot a class or that you have to, aren't those the worst? I did that probably 3 months ago. I woke up and I had a dream that was as real as could be, that I hadn't been to class in a semester. Like I was like, it was probably, in February or something, and I thought it was December in my dream, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to fail this class and I'm not going to be able. I woke up and I'm like, you're 32, man. You haven't been to school in years. It's been a decade. But Nikki's the same way. Yeah. She had a lot of schooling. She had her, postgraduate, getting her JD and all that kind of stuff, and she does the same thing. It won't get better. I really would love to tell you, like, you won't have those anymore. You will forever.
It haunts you
Oh,
sure.
my God. Yeah. But it is a nice feeling, like, when you do that. It's like when you're able to leave something at work, when you're able to leave it there. I mean, that was one of my favorite things about the job I had in college. I worked at a bank. It was like as soon as that was done, I was done, because the rest of my life was like I was in theater. It's like I had to, not only did I have homework, I had to go there for 3 hours to rehearse.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you just kind of get in that zone where it's fine. But it also works out too, right when you're out, if you have any licensing that you have to do or you have tests that you have to do, because you're just in that zone. If I had to do some of the stuff I did right after college, I don't think I could do it anymore. I'm just lazy, apparently. So you bartend at Stone Canyon part-time. And you said Parkville, not the Kansas City one. Like, do you go to the old one?
So Parkville is the original one. Yep. And so that's the one that I work at. And then there was the one in Zona Rosa. But that one has now moved to Gladstone.
Oh, okay.
And it just opened up this week. But
no, nice.
Yeah, I haven't been to either of those locations yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The one in Parkville, Nikki and I lived in Riverside.
Oh, nice.
So we probably went there. Again, no idea why I gained so much weight for a few years. But we'd go there probably every weekend, every other weekend for a time. And it's one of my downtown Parkville is one of the coolest places in Kansas City.
Cool area.
Just like you feel like you're kind of transported back in time, but you have all the modern luxuries. Just a nice city street. But then you've got, so you worked there and then you went to Park. So your entire life was downtown Parkville.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I could go weeks at a time and never leave downtown Parkville.
1 square mile, good to go. Well, in Park University, I mean, you said you wanted to talk it up. One thing I can talk it up with, because I've obviously never been, but it is one of the most beautiful campuses.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I would go there and just stare. It's like you've got, when you come on the approach, is that 45 highway? And you come on the approach and all of a sudden you're just kind of met with basically what is just a giant hill, and there's the university, and you can go underground here. It's like I remember we would just drive around campus every once in a while. Like, this is amazing.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
The main building, the tall one, it's called McKay.
Okay.
And it was actually built, I believe, in the right around 1907-ish.
Nice.
And that was one of the first work study programs in the U.S., I think, maybe even in the world, because they allowed the university's architecture students to build that instead of paying for tuition.
Oh, wow.
Basically. So that was actually built by students as payment for tuition out of limestone that was mined from the underground.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yep. Most of the buildings there, I think, are made of that limestone.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful. Downtown Parkville is beautiful. The approach when you go from 45 at 9 highway, maybe going north. I mean, we actually looked at one of the houses up there. I think it was owned it was mixed use. It was commercial or residential, depending on what you wanted to do. But it was a greenhouse, and it's on that freaking road that is just vertical. So houses are like, there's the sidewalk, and 12 feet up is the basement of the house. And we went out on one of the decks there, and I think on that side it either overlooks like an athletic field. I don't know if it's a soccer field or a football field or whatever it is. But you really get a sense of like just how amazing that campus is, because you're not high up, but it goes down into the valley and then it goes right back up that hill. So yeah, I mean, if you ever want to go to a college just only based on scenery, because I have no idea the programs there, which you do, but that would be my top choice. I mean, it's small enough where it actually feels like an intimate university, but it's amazing to walk through as well. Because I went to State Fair Community College for theater, because they gave me a scholarship, and I was like, yeah, I don't have to pay, fantastic. And then I went to the University of Missouri, and I love my alma mater, but if you're going to pick what's prettier, Park wins out without question. It's like you've got Jesse Hall, and there you go. Which is, of course, the only building they ever show in pictures. They don't show like half the ones that I went to. They're like, okay.
No working elevators.
No working elevators. It's fine. It's really hot in here. Where's the air conditioning? Yeah.
No, I like to say Park is a good school for nerds. I mean, the science program is really good. They've got like a really good lab. The nursing program especially was recently revamped, and it is like super high tech. If you want to be a nurse, that's a great school to go to. But also, like, in terms of being for nerds, there's not a football team, just a soccer team.
Okay. So I saw a soccer field.
Yeah,
then.
Right.
Okay.
So no football, no cheerleaders, none of that. No, like, sororities or fraternities. And then you have the castle, which is very similar to Hogwarts. And then you have the underground, where you can feel like Batman.
Nice.
So
that's fantastic.
It's got something for everybody.
You should just go there and just be one of the people that walks new kids through. Like, you look like you should go here. Want to see the Hogwarts castle? Come on with me. You look like you like Batman. Let's go into the tunnel. That's perfect.
I actually got to, while I was a student there, I was really crazy involved. I don't, like, looking back, I don't know that I set out to be super involved. It was more that I kept finding things that I liked to do and did them.
Yeah.
But part of my job was to be a first-year experience mentor. So I would get assigned a group of freshmen or first-year transfer students. And so during the first week, it was my job to take them on tours, help them find their classes, help them with books, financial aid, all that kind of stuff, like being the first person they go to if they have a question.
Seems to be a theme with you.
Yeah, right. When I was in my interviews, I was like, listen, I've kind of done this before. Like,
you're looking for people to help? I got, this is going to be old news.
Yeah. Honestly, I have found about myself that I like to find organizations that do, like, good, respectable work that you can get behind, and then help other people experience them in the best way possible. Like, that's just what I have found that I'm good at.
Yeah, when you become a cheerleader for the cause, and that probably helps you not only, obviously, just being happy when you go to work, but just mentally you kind of feel like I'm doing something for other people. I'm doing something that I like, and it just happens to fall within the spectrum of what these people are looking for.
Right.
So. And
Halo has the added bonus for sure of every single day I can see the way that we are affecting individual lives and helping kids move away from the cycle of homelessness.
Yeah.
Like, it's really cool.
That's fantastic. And it seeing that on a day-to-day basis has to help, because I know that when you're, I mean, there's a, I don't know if you know who, I think it's Chris Hofstetter. He's a comedian. He became like YouTube famous because he basically will put down hecklers. So anybody that comes to his show and thinks that they're going to one-up him on something, he will just make sure that that doesn't ever enter their mind again. But in one of the episodes, he talks about, it's a long, kind of ridiculous clip, but it was interesting to see because there was somebody that he asked the audience, like, are you doing what you want to do? And there was somebody in my profession that was like, I'm a realtor and I love it. It's like, yeah, working for a commission is probably exactly what you dreamed about growing up, I'm sure. But I mean, there were several people in the audience that, work for nonprofits. One was like an international motocross rider. It's like, yeah, you're probably doing exactly what you want to do and found a way to hack life to make that happen. But I mean, it's interesting. And I love seeing people like you who not only does it fit within something that makes you feel, mentally well, it helps you out because you're helping other people out, but you're just kind of drawn to that situation where it's like, you need a guide? I'm here to be a guide. Fantastic. Do you find that on the opposite side of that, when somebody has to guide you, you get frustrated, or you just kind of understand, like, I just don't know?
I feel like I don't typically get frustrated. I feel like it's like the joke about how if you've been a server before and then you're getting really bad service, you're always like, I don't even care. It's fine. Like, do what you have to do. Don't worry about me. I think I'm kind of the same way, but it helps that I usually know what questions to ask.
Gotcha.
Too,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. So what is one of the just pinnacle experiences that you've had? I mean, I know you haven't been here long, but I mean, I just think, every once in a while you kind of get into a situation, no matter what your career is, even if you're in something like what I do, there's always something that hits you. Like there was last year, my brother and I had somebody come in and they knew they couldn't buy a house. And they were just like, yeah, we had this issue. There were financial issues kind of stemming back from the recession. And they mentioned their credit score. They were like, we just got it checked and it's only this. It's like, there's a program with this bank that you can do that. You want us to check it out? Sure. And we got them in a house. And it was one of those things, like, I think mentally it really helped them. And you could see that. It was like, we can't afford it because we made some mistakes and just kind of ruined us. And to bring somebody back like that was just really neat. It's like you don't really get a lot of experiences like that when you're working real estate, because most of the time you're just like, I don't want to make that phone call. This is terrible. Why are we doing this? In yours, I've got to imagine there's a lot of just everyday moments, but there's got to be something that you've seen already, whether it was when you were volunteering or now, that was just like, that made my month. That made my year.
So there have been a couple smaller ones for sure. I think it sticks out to me every time we get, a young man who's 16, 15, something like that, who kind of comes in, and at first, I mean, you walk into the learning center and it's all brightly colored and everything like that. So it is like, it's really artsy and that sort of thing. So I think a lot of times the kids walk in and they're a little uneasy or put off, or they're like, what am I going to have to do now? That sort of thing. And it's always really nice to see, especially the kids that make sure they put on a really tough face, to kind of see that break away a little bit and see them get excited. Like I can remember one young man when I was volunteering who got so pumped that I was going to let him play with glitter. Like use glitter on his pictures. He was like 16 years old and he was like visibly so excited that I was like, yeah, use as much glitter as you want. And that one, yeah, it was like funny, but it also kind of hit my heart a little bit, because like, how often are you around adults that are squashing this, or people in general who are squashing this, like you deserve this time to feel like a kid, right?
Yeah.
So those always kind of stick with me, like the young men that get really, really excited about that kind of stuff. I think we had a guy yesterday in our sewing class who successfully made the pouch, and when he like held it open for the first time, you could see in his eyes, he's like, I made this and it's doing what it's supposed to. I just created this with my hands,
That's awesome.
So it's really cool to see those moments, because it is small, but it's good. It's really healthy. Or right when I first started, there was a gal who's been with us for a really long time, and her mother, she's living with her mom, who's a really loving, hardworking woman, kind of reached out to us and said she was ready to get her first job. So we invited her in and pulled together some resources. We were able to give her a list of all the places that were in her area, in walking distance, or on a close bus route that were hiring. So she had that. And then we also went through tips for making a resume, tips for being in an interview. Like, I kind of explained to her what it means when somebody asks you this or this in an interview question. Like, they're not really asking how you or where you grew up or whatever. They want to know what your values are, that sort of thing. And by the end of it, she was like, this is amazing. I never would have known any of this. She was like, I mean, she has good people in her life, but she has never really had the chance to sit down and actually learn these things. Right. And within about a month, she had a job where she's working like 30 hours a week or something for the whole summer.
Nice.
So, I mean, you don't take credit for that or anything like that, but the fact that we were able to help her and push her in the right directions, like that does change the world for her a little bit too. Yeah. So that was a really good one.
Well, it's amazing when you see the ability to like give people tools they didn't even know existed. Right. I mean, that to me that's as good as you can get as a person. Like, it's such a cliche statement, but like, you don't know what you don't know, but it's absolutely true. And if you get into that situation and you either haven't had anybody around in your life that's been able to teach you, wanted to teach you, anything like that, and then all of a sudden you get somebody in there like, this is something you have to know, but we're going to make sure you do. And then, you get the satisfaction at the end of the day of like, I got the job. And you have a real reward. And especially at the end of the week or at the end of the month when you get paid, it's like, I can now see that these skills that I had no idea even existed gave me real, actual value. I mean, that lifts your spirits as a person, not just, I did something good today, hooray. It's like, no, my opinion would be take credit for it all you want, because you can say, like, I actually helped somebody be the person they always could be. They just didn't know. Right. Yeah.
And I would say there are a lot of aspects of just the professional world in any field whenever you're trying to get a job that is sort of set up to weed out the people that haven't learned certain things. The problem with our kids is that it doesn't have anything to do with them. It's just resources that they've missed over the years, lessons that didn't happen. If they've never had somebody sit down with them and teach them, like, this is how you dress for an interview, then they simply don't know those things, you know? Like, it's not, so it is good to be able to find those resources and provide it for the people that want to ask for it. Yeah.
Well, it's so amazing because you see that at every level too. Like, I'm sure that there is relative performance, relative knowledge when you look at several different factors. And I'm not going to pretend that the world's perfect and equal in that regard, but it is amazing to me that you do see those kind of missed opportunities, whether it's, the poorest of the poor, the richest of the rich. Somebody close to me, I won't say who, but somebody very close to me was interviewing somebody for a relatively lucrative position. And if nothing else, it was a very good opportunity to kind of create a very lucrative opportunity. And so this individual is interviewing them. Their family has a lot of money. They've been raised going to the best schools. Showed up for this opportunity where everybody dresses in a suit or nicer, and was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. It's like, really? Interesting. Like, you, looking at your resume, you'd be the perfect candidate. You sitting right here in front of me, not at all. So it is amazing to me when you see that, when you see, obviously somebody who never even had the opportunity to be taught that, whether it's their household environment or something that might have happened along the way, to somebody who had every opportunity and just chose not to take advantage of it. So it's kind of a crazy world, but I definitely can see that when you get into certain aspects, certain individuals probably need that help a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
And we do, I think, again, like, we try to fill those gaps where we can. I can remember her face just, like, lighting up by the end of it, and she's like, wow, she was like, I never would have understood any of this. Thank you so much, all this. Like, that was cool. But we also, I think about a year ago, they had a gal come in, or no, it was right before the 2016 elections. They had a gal come in who broke politics down to the very basics. What is a Democrat? What is a Republican? What is the Electoral College? All of that. Yeah. And explained it to the kids. And at the end of it, helped everyone who was 18 and older get registered to vote.
Nice.
Little things like that. That really does, like, that helps for people that don't, I mean, even something as simple as not being able to get a ride to the polls. Yeah. Can make or break that for somebody. So being able to pull all of that under one roof and get them that resource right away was really, really cool. Yeah.
Well, and it's probably good to see that in an election like 2016, which was famously calm and well thought out. But I mean, to me, that's probably the biggest benefit. I mean, somebody just being able to come in and with just a straight face say, this is what this is, this is what this is, here's the made policy, here's the, a little bit of history to get your understanding kind of in line with where we are, and then to, one, help, but also just be able to walk away after that and not say, but here's what's the truth, because that was...
Now here's who you vote for.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
I always found it really interesting when I was in college, and I have such weird off-political views that it probably just would frustrate anybody to be like, but you're this. Yeah, but I think but I'm not at the same time. But I was in a sociology class when I was in college, which you would think would kind of lend itself to somebody who was very open teaching the class. Like, this is your degree, this is your doctorate, you understand it. And it was the exact opposite. I had this person that was like, people that are far left would find this person terrifying as a sociology professor. Like, she would show videos almost daily of people that were Republicans and then Democrats just trashing them. And it was really strange. It was like, aren't you supposed to kind of teach us that this model of behavior that you're showing us right now is kind of the antithesis of what a good person is? And it was you couldn't change your mind. I actually, like, there were people that would, because this is a class of 300, and so people raise their hands like, what are you, like, you're so far off base, it's not even funny. And it's like, sit down or you're doing this. It's like, I'm not going to sacrifice my grade to try to prove my point, but I think less of you now. I'm sorry about that. But I mean, you kind of take advantage. You don't realize, I guess, your advantage when you really are able to research and you know what to research. Again, know what you don't know what you don't know. Right. But that's very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. And so you've got the experiences. You've now had, so how long did you volunteer with them? I guess I didn't break that down because you said you did it in college, but...
So I honestly am not even really for sure myself. I think it was about a year and a half.
Okay.
Because I started pretty well at the beginning of my freshman semester, and I was just volunteering for a while. And then I started teaching a couple different workshops. And then for a summer, I think I was going in probably twice a week to, again, teach workshops. And I helped do writing for their blog a while and that sort of thing. So that was about a year and a half. And then I think there were 2 or 3 years in between. Gotcha. And then I came back in April.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so the Learning Center as a place, I assume it's a physical location as the Learning Center. So where did that start?
So I think the Learning Center was actually the first part of Halo that was developed.
Oh, okay.
Halo itself started, I think, in 2004 when Rebecca had gone on her mission trip to, I think it was Honduras, and she met a little girl while she was off buying a lemonade or something like that, and this little girl came up like with had like dry lips. You could really tell that she was hungry and kind of in need of clothing and that sort of thing. And Rebecca said that the little girl like comes up and kind of asks for a drink, and it really did just send her whole world crashing down. She was like, wow, I think there are other ways that I could be helping people. Yeah. And at the time she was, I think, a world champion martial artist.
Oh, wow.
Totally crazy. Yeah. And she went back to she taught martial arts to kids, right? And kind of told them the story of Daisy, the little girl, and everything. And the kids were like, well, that's wrong. Like just, the way kids can be, where it's just like
black and
fact,
white.
Like they're like, well, that's not right. We got to do something. And so they had a board breakathon that they hosted. The kids break boards, Yeah. I've never been to one, but I think that one raised like $4,000 or $5,000, something like that. Yeah. Crazy. And so they used that money and had another one, and that one raised, I want to say, almost 40,000, somewhere in there. Yeah. Like these kids really just, it didn't even occur to them that, children aren't supposed to be able to make that happen.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So they just really went in with that kid mindset of, well, we're going to do something about it.
Yeah.
And with that, they started Halo.
Gotcha.
So the headquarters and the Learning Center are in Kansas City. And then I don't know what order the rest of it showed up in, but we also have a Learning Center in Mexico. And then across Guatemala, Uganda, Nicaragua, and Kenya, and India. I think that's everywhere.
Wow.
We have some learning centers, some different education programs. And
just gave a look. My lights went out on an automatic switch. Sorry about that.
No,
Go ahead.
So spread out across those, we have learning centers, other educational like tuition reimbursement programs, and then actual fully operational orphanages.
Gotcha.
Where kids can come in at any age, and they're pretty well seen through when they're ready to move out as an adult. And that's full care, food, clothing. They pay for tuition because tuition is expensive in a lot of places, even for public school. So that sort of thing. So really it's more
gotta get new stands, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That is more like of a home, like lifelong kind of care.
Gotcha.
And then more recently we developed a couple different transitional living programs in Missouri. So in Jefferson City we have one that's up and going. I think it can sleep 20 women at once.
Oh wow.
And that one is purely a girls program. So I told you we like to go in and kind of assess a community's needs, right, and fill those gaps. So in Jefferson City, there was nowhere where like a young woman escaping a bad situation could go and be admitted without someone 18 or older to sign her in.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can imagine that there were probably a lot of girls that were in bad situations at home that couldn't really escape because there weren't any options for them. So the Jefferson City Girls Home serves girls roughly like 16 to 24 years of age, and then their kiddos if they have them. Yeah. Right. And so that has been running for the last few years now and has been really successful. I think it's seen somewhere around 56 young ladies.
Gotcha.
And that is an 18-month program roughly. They can stay a little bit longer on the end if they need to, but they can live totally rent-free. They're provided resources on parenting, budgeting, getting a job, art therapy, that sort of thing. Substance abuse care if that's necessary. Yeah. Basically, again, anything that kind of helps them advance their lives a little bit. And then also like, okay, so you don't have a high school diploma, let's start there. Yep. You need a job, let's do that. You don't have your social security card, let's work on that sort of thing. Just spending that time to help them get on their feet, give them the parenting skills that they need. That way they can leave and be a productive member of the community. Gotcha. Right. In Kansas City, we have a pilot program that's the same. We have 2 girls in it, and it's wrapping up right now, and that'll resume whenever we open up our home and actually have those 24 beds. But yeah, I think those 2 girls, it's 2 girls and then one of them has her kiddo with her. And they've done really, really well. They both have been able to save up some money, and I think one of them just bought a car. They both have good jobs, and they've been apartment hunting so that they can get a place of their own. And yeah, it's been really great. That's
fantastic. I mean, the theme that I keep hearing from you, and you've used the word a couple of times, but it just seems like the overall idea is that, anybody who's in a bad situation, whether that's, I don't want to say of their own doing, but they've, just kind of come from a situation where they have not found the tools to improve their lives. The word that I keep hearing from you is empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
It's taking an individual and showing them, like, here's the way.
Yep.
We're going to help.
Yep.
And I think that, I mean, especially when you come from certain situations, you feel so, just kind of mentally devastated that, I mean, not trying to reroute the conversation, but when I was in kind of my early college years, when you've got hormones going crazy and everything else, like, I went through 2 horrific depressions, and there is nothing you can really comprehend that can really tell anybody what that feels like outside of, there was just nothing positive. I didn't feel anything positive for weeks or for months. And to know that some people not only have that they're struggling with, but to also come from a situation where somebody may have told them that that's the case, and then they come to you and you tell them the exact opposite and you help them through. And I'm sure a lot of that, I don't want to say it's hand holding, but it kind of is, in a very positive and productive way. So, I mean, it's got to be one. We've talked about the big positives, like, helping people, seeing the light in that kid's eyes that was playing with glitter, knowing that lady got her job. But I mean, when you see some of these people come in the first time, it's got to be kind of mentally, it has to kind of rock you a bit sometimes to see some of these situations and go, okay, I have to be a positive force, but I also have to be a little bit stronger of a person because I can handle this right now.
Right, yeah. We actually do go through a lot of training on that.
Yeah.
It's called secondary trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when the trauma that someone else has experienced, the way that you are experiencing it vicariously, whether through them telling you about it or if you witness something, that is also a form of trauma that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of our training also is in trauma-informed care, because
Mm-hmm.
you do have to assume that every child who walks into the learning center is either currently experiencing or has recently experienced pretty serious trauma. You know, I mean, even just to be homeless and have ended up in the shelter that they're in to be with us
Mm-hmm.
means that they have had a bad experience with a parent or experienced neglect or whatever.
Or
insert trauma here.
Yeah.
Like, it's, you really do. And you also don't know. I mean, there are times when a kid will get dropped off at the shelter at 4 and then the shelter comes into Halo at 6. So
Mm-hmm.
they're still reeling, they've still got all of that going on in their head. So
Mm-hmm.
being that strong, mindful presence is
Mm-hmm.
really, really important. Like, even just little things like making sure you're smiling, making sure as they come in, you're like, okay, this is where water is. These are where the restrooms are. You're going to be here for 1 hour, like explaining exactly what's going on and where everything they need is, just so they can kind of sit, breathe,
They can feel
kind
stability.
of, kind of get more into that mindset and not have to be so stressed in that moment.
Yeah. And what you said you had training for those situations? Do they also, I mean, and again, I don't know how involved it gets. I can imagine, but don't want to say. But I mean, do they also kind of make sure that you're talking to people, that you're talking to everybody around you? Because I mean, some of those, I think about, I have a family member who's a police officer, and for a number of years he was in special victims unit, and it's horrifying some of the things that they do. And it's like, they try to have you talk to people and kind of have that conversation, but in that world, a lot of it is, you just have to kind of grin and bear it and keep going. And you see that come out a lot of times when you're just having a conversation with them, and it's just like there's a break and you see just something flash across. It's obviously a memory of something that they went through, and you're like, that's, you don't want to call it post-traumatic stress disorder, but it's got to be something similar to that. When they went on the scene and saw something that was just something I can't even imagine.
Oh, yeah.
When you have somebody that comes in to your learning center, I mean, I'm sure you've heard stories. People probably kind of pour their heart out in some way. But, I mean, in your world, do you guys also have kind of conversations around each other, or do you make sure that you kind of like get that off of you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we do have our, the licensed counselor on staff that I told you about,
Right.
Albany, right?
Yep.
So every Wednesday she comes in and runs what we call group supervision,
Mm-hmm.
which is where she Skypes with the women who are running the home in Jefferson City.
Okay.
And then anybody in the learning center side of it that wants to come in as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically just a time to talk about any kind of secondary trauma you're experiencing while dealing, and also discussing the trauma that your clients are dealing with too.
Yeah.
So that our licensed person can tell you, okay, you need to take some time and take care of yourself, or this is the best way to address that sort of thing. So we also have a lot of training as we're starting on the signs of burnout, both in yourself and in the people around you.
Yeah.
So we are all sort of responsible for keeping an eye on ourselves and also on each other.
Yeah.
To make sure that we're not going through that, because
That's great.
really you can't help people, especially people in these situations, if you aren't first taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Like if you're walking into it with your own issues or your own things that you're focusing on, or you're in the moment and something can trigger you in a way that you're unable to come back from, like that's valid, but you also aren't helping anybody.
Right.
Like you shouldn't ever consider yourself a martyr,
Right.
that
Yeah.
sort of thing. Like that's just not good for anybody.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we have a lot of resources in place, and they're also really understanding about it. Like if I were to say tomorrow, like, hey, I really think I should work from home today, like I'm not really doing so well with it right now, they would be like, that's fine, do what you need.
Yeah.
Come in when you're ready.
That's
Like that
fantastic.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, they really do take a lot of proactive steps to make sure that we aren't experiencing anything
Good.
like that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, and I do think that's, it seems like such an obvious thing, but not everybody is in a situation to work at a place that operates in that manner, but it's amazing to me. Like, it just seems like as we shift our culture a little bit away from just feeling like you have to work 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, 40 hours a week, you come home, you punch the time, and that's your whole life for 30 or 40 years, and then you get 20 to retire. I feel like there are a lot of programs that are really moving away from that. And my wife always sends me studies. She works in employment law, so she's really interested in some of the situations that, kind of come up. And it's amazing that you see companies that move to like a 4-day work week. I mean, just something that simple, just taking one day away. Like, keep the salary, 4 days of work, but here's how we're going to structure it. And they have, somebody come in that models what somebody's day looks like. And all it really is making sure that, just random things like, if there's bad lighting in the place, you change the lighting. If the air conditioner should be set at 70 and not 72, you change the air conditioner. Like, you continue to go through all of these things, and all of a sudden they find that because they have 3 days, like it's almost a 50-50 balance at this point between work and just their life, that when they come in for 4 days, they're going crazy. Like, they're just doing exactly what they need to do because they know that whether it's Monday or Friday or a day in the middle of the week, that individual is going to be, 95% productive at work as opposed to 70% most of the time. So I like hearing about work environments where they're understanding, they take the time to really take care of their employees. And I mean, honestly, at this point, I feel like every single place in the world should have a counselor on hand. Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, it's amazing when you talk to somebody, you meet somebody on the street, and you just say, "Hey, how's it going?" "Oh, pretty good." Like, is it for everyone? Right. I don't think so. But I'm guilty about giving that answer too, so it is what it is. So so as far as the Learning Center goes, I mean, there have been several programs that you've kind of talked about that you guys have, but what's your favorite thing that you guys do?
Well, we've got an event coming up next week that is like our summer showcase.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about that. It's one of, I think, a couple events that we do that are actually specifically for the kids, because a lot of our events are for fundraising and to celebrate our donors and that sort of thing too. But this is one that we really do focus entirely on making sure the kids have a good time.
Gotcha.
So we've had several different programs throughout the summer that kind of lead up to this, where they can work on projects that have to do with our monthly life skill or our theme this year, which is growing. And then it's an opportunity for the kids to come in and kind of show their work in a professional environment. Awesome. We'll set up easels and everything like that.
Yeah.
And then we invite kind of our friends and just generally the Halo family, you know, to come in and celebrate the kids, celebrate their healing, look at their art, that sort of thing. So awesome. I'm really excited about that one.
Very cool.
I haven't gotten to be part of it yet. So yeah, that's a good one. And then just for this summer, since I came on in May, I've kind of had a hold on all the summer programming that we've done. Yeah. So we do art and life skills weekly right now with 3 different shelters, and then one has been every other week.
Gotcha.
And then I teach a weekly creative writing class to one of our groups of teens that come in.
English major coming in handy.
Yeah, right. And then just this week and next week we have Tuesday, Wednesday, so like a 4-session sewing workshop that's going on. And that's been a cool one too. And then another random one that we set up, we have a partnership with the STEAM studio in Westport. Okay. It's like STEM, but with the A for art,
Nice.
STEAM. Yeah, it's cool. So they had a chance to go in there and kind of either take a personality quiz and build like a professional portfolio based on that.
Oh, wow.
Or do like a layout of their dream space, or if they have like an entrepreneurial, I cannot say that word.
It's all good.
Entrepreneurial idea, they can, they kind of could build a profile for that too.
Nice.
And then that'll actually all be at the showcase so that they can present it to people as well.
Very
but that
cool.
one's a really cool chance to do like creative artsy stuff, but in a really professional environment using skills that go towards like technical design, architecture, that sort of thing. So
nice.
Yeah, that one was a really cool one too.
So what's the age range? Because I've heard, see young kids in some of the pictures in Halo, and, obviously you're talking 15, 16-year-olds up to 24, in some of your programs. Is there just a 20-year or better range in there, just kind of early life at that point?
Pretty much. So the youngest groups that we see typically are like 5 to 12, I would say, are the shelters. That's who they serve usually. So I think the youngest kid that I've actually seen in the center was 4, maybe. Yeah. 4 or 5. And then all the way through, we say 24, but if one of our kids that we've worked with for a long time comes back at 25 and needs something, obviously we're going to help them, So yeah, it is a pretty solid, almost 20-year age range.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how long has the organization been around?
15 years.
15 years.
I think this year is our 15th birthday.
Gotcha. Yeah, it'll be interesting with an organization like that. And obviously in certain programs you hope that you don't see somebody back again, but at the same time, like when you have an organization like yours that is dedicated and kind of has their focus in, and I know that you guys are continuing to expand, but it does seem like when you find an area of focus, you stick with it and you're there. And again, it just breeds the consistency that some of the kids probably haven't ever seen. But it's got to be amazing and I know you've only been there for a little bit here, but it's got to be amazing for, some of the people that have been around for 10, 12 years to actually have seen people, kids go from that 5-year-old that they knew up to, early teens or late teens, to be able to see like, this is something that we can actually show, like, here's our progress, here's our influence, here's our poster child, for lack of a better word. Yeah,
it is really cool. And I would say that obviously we always want to be able to set up the workshops for all the kids that we're trying to reach. But another part of our goal, I guess, with those is to keep kids around. Yeah. Like we have a lot of kids who, like I said, we meet through shelter and then they stick around a while. Like if we can really build up that relationship with them, then that gives us the ability to offer them resources for a long time, like build the way we're doing that. Yeah. Because there are some kids that will just come in for one art workshop and then we just never see them again. And you just don't know what happens, right? So it is really cool to be able to build those relationships and again, become that family, right? Because that is ultimately what we would like to do, is be the family resource that they maybe haven't had. Yeah. But we do have, I think we've got 2 girls right now that are doing especially well. Nice. We've got, I'm not sure if I can actually say names. I think I can because they're on all of our promotional stuff. But we've got one girl named like Marjay, and she came in whenever she was pretty young. She started coming to our art and life skill workshops, and she built up a relationship with the gal who had my position before. And since then, we've been able to help her get a scholarship. We've been able to give her opportunities to share her poetry. She's like a really, really talented poet. So we've kind of seen her grow in her skills at that, and then also be able to come in and present that at our events and that sort of thing. So just being able to watch her journey as she heals and is now like has like a full ride scholarship to go to Mizzou, like that's it's just really cool to be able to see that sort of thing too.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And another gal, Tiana, who kind of went the same route. Like we were able to help her get a scholarship, and now she's about to move into the first step in her career. Like we've known her for years, and we've kind of been able to watch her develop, and it's just it's really cool.
Well, it's got to, it's for somebody like those two that have taken the time, have done the right things, and obviously taken the right steps to do kind of what I assume you would say is kind of your mission in life, to empower them to make those decisions. But to see that is obviously amazing. But I just cannot imagine being a part of an organization where you can actually say, like, look at this, we were part of this. Like this wasn't something where they just kind of slinked away. They had to put in the effort. They had to put in the work. They had to show up. But at the same time, we gave them that place. That's got to be a very empowering thing for you guys, too. Like, it's got to feel good to just be able to say, like, yeah, we're here.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I like to say that we're like the link between people who are wanting to help and people who want to ask for help.
Yeah.
Because these two girls are really good examples of people who saw us for the resource that we are. I mean, obviously, we're always sharing that, but a lot of kids don't really conceptualize in the moment, like, oh, this is somewhere I can go if I need to use the internet. This is somewhere that I can go if I need help with my resume, that sort of thing, But these girls really, that clicked for them and they stuck around. And now even little things, like if they need a ride somewhere, we're like, yeah, I got you. Or they need to come print something out, like they can just come by, It's like, it is really cool to kind of have set up that relationship with them where they feel comfortable enough to reach out and ask for things, because that is what we want.
Yeah.
And it's neat that there are people who actually catch on and can take advantage of it. And that's
Yeah, it's got to be fun.
Yeah, it is.
Honestly.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the little girls are my favorite too. There's this young lady. Our program director has a story about the first time she went to one of the shelters. This girl comes up and she's like, "Hi, I'm child," and she's like, "I'm the Halo ambassador. I'll be taking you to your classroom," at like 6, 2 feet tall.
That's awesome.
And I think I haven't known her since she was that young. I've known her since she was probably 9, maybe a little older, but I think she's about to go into her freshman year of high school.
Gotcha.
And we still see her all the time and everything. Like, yeah, it is neat.
Yeah. That there's a little girl in my oldest son's class named Ava, and that's you have an Ava. Like the first time we went and like just kind of checked the place out, she like came up to us and asked us who we were, what our names were. It was like, "You're like 18 inches tall. Stop it. Stop doing better at introducing yourself than I am at introducing myself." What I guess with an organization like that, I mean, obviously you guys, when you focus, you have different areas that you, I'm sure, are trying to expand to, as we've discussed. But is there anything where you guys say, like, this is just one area that somebody else is taking care of, so we're not going to focus on that? Like, basically, do you guys have something where it's like, and I think about my friend's organization, Literacy KC, that is such a focused thing, but because of kind of the situations that they see, the people that they interact with, they've had to kind of establish partnerships where if somebody comes in, let's say as a victim of domestic violence, they know, because they've seen that plenty of times, like, I have to call this organization, we're going to make sure you're there. But we're not taking over that because, one, that's not our focus, and two, they're obviously doing something better at it. So, I mean, because it seems like you guys have a lot of amazing things, but you do have, in concentrated value, you have a lot of different things that you do. You have classes, you have these, the shelters with beds that you guys have. I mean, that's several areas to kind of keep in one organization. So is there anything that your founder or that your organization overall has just kind of said, nope, so-and-so is doing great, we just need to make sure that if somebody comes in that situation, we connect them?
So I think the way that we kind of, I don't know if categorize is the right word, but the way that we kind of establish that is that our 3 pillars that we focus on are housing, healing, and education.
Gotcha.
So everything that we do are falling under one of those 3 umbrellas. And then I guess if we have a mission statement, it would be that we're trying to help one more child spend one less day alone. Yeah. So that's usually how we keep our focus on that. I think the main thing that I've had to say, we don't have that, but here's a number you can call, is when we get a lot of calls for adults that are searching for shelter. Okay. And we don't offer any kind of services for adults. We focus solely on children. Yeah. But our number obviously shows up if you're Googling homeless in Kansas City. Yeah. So we do get a lot of phone calls from people who are looking for shelter. And especially since we don't even have a kids shelter right now. Right. So, that has just been about compiling lists of resources that we can direct people to. So like if my phone rings right now and somebody's like, "Hey, I'm 40, I'm looking for a bed, I don't know what to do," I can say, "Listen, I don't have anything for you, but you can call this number." Yeah. Right? Like, okay. So that's kind of where
that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, the goal is that age bracket that we were just talking about a few minutes ago. It's here, and if you fall out of that, obviously if you've been a part of the program, I'm sure that's a little bit different.
Right. But we definitely stick with the kiddos who have been with us for a long time. But if an adult calls, or if somebody has a parent that they are needing help for or something like that, then that is where we redirect them. But again, it is really cool that we still have partnerships with all these different groups, and we are able to still bridge those gaps.
Gotcha.
You know, yeah.
Cool. And how when you were a part of this organization, or when you found out that the opportunity might be there, you know, you have your mom, your dad, your sister. How did your family react to that? Were they excited because they knew about it from college, or were they kind of like, is this what you want to do with your degree? What was the reaction there? Because I know that you have, and I shouldn't say I know, but from what I have seen, your family is amazing. But you always kind of, you know, in whatever situation it might be, sometimes you get a little bit more buy-in, you get a little less buy-in. What did they think about your decision on that?
They've been really, really supportive.
Awesome.
I think it made them a little bit uneasy whenever I was graduating college and didn't have a plan yet.
Yeah, because nobody's ever done that before.
Right, yeah. Obviously, still always super supportive.
Of course.
But, I mean, I was saying at the time, like, hey, I'm going to spend the next 8 years bartending. let me sleep on your couch if I can. Like, you know. So I think they were relieved whenever I found something that had a little bit more direction
Gotcha.
to it, or was a little bit more in line with what I want to do, I guess.
Gotcha.
And obviously they had heard me talk about Halo for years. They both liked it on Facebook several years ago whenever I started, so they've been following as much as I have, you know. So yeah, they've been really supportive and helpful, and even my dad is coming down tomorrow to buy dinner for the workshop that I'm hosting tomorrow night.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, they help out where they can.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
So where exactly do they still live where you guys grew up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Way
where
up
was
north.
that? Way
Cameron.
up Cameron?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For some reason I thought it was a little south of Cameron. We have some friends that we meet with like once or twice a year, and we have to pick a middle location, and it's always Liberty. And it's still so far on our side it's not even funny. Yeah. But yeah, I knew that you guys grew up there. It was just I couldn't remember exactly what city it was up north. I knew it was way past Liberty, but so Cameron. Mm-hmm. So what high school did you go to?
Cameron High School.
It was Cameron High School?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I remember, and I might be getting this mixed up with another story, but I remember your mom telling me that like maybe you went to one high school and your sister went to another, because I don't know if it was a focus or just a choice or whatever it was.
We grew up in a town that is small enough that it's technically called a township, I believe, called Meyerville. And Meyerville obviously doesn't have its own high school, so you can go preschool through 8th grade there.
Gotcha.
And then kind of choose between the 4 high schools in the area, which are Cameron, Hamilton, Polo, and Lathrop.
Gotcha.
And I went to Cameron because I wanted to focus more on music and theater, and those are programs that Cameron had.
Nice.
And Emma was more interested in being like a cheerleader and a basketball player.
Gotcha.
And she thought that she would have an easier time doing that at a smaller school,
Gotcha.
so that's why she went to Polo.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
nice.
I think even though I went to the quote-unquote bigger school, I still graduated in a class of maybe 100.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
yeah, we both got a really, really small town experience for that.
I didn't realize you were in music and theater. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Were you in plays then?
Mm-hmm.
When you were there?
We did a musical every fall and a play every spring. And
Gotcha.
I did all 8.
All of it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Show choir too.
Oh, show choir? Yeah. We did that. Oh God, that was not a good experience. So we it was me and my buddy who was a football player we both have 2 left feet. I might be a little bit more nimble on my feet, especially when I was in high school, but that's about it. But we tried to do that, and our music teacher was like, we want to get this started. It's a program that we're trying to focus on. And so we were like, we really respected her. So we're like, we'll try it. I think you're barking up the wrong tree with the 2 of us, though. And we were not very good at all. Yeah, so that was entertaining. But I jacked up my shoulder permanently in 8th grade, and then it finally just went away. And my sophomore year, I just had no throwing power. So like my baseball career ended, and I had a director who was my freshman English teacher, and he found that out, and he was like, do you want to go into theater? I was like, yeah, why not? So
that's cool.
Yeah, it paid for my college education the first 2 years. I got a theater scholarship to the community college that had like a 300-person seat, really nice theater. And I went there for 2 years, and I was like, I've got to get out of here. I'm glad this is only a community college, because as nice, like as much as I enjoyed Sedalia for 2 years, I think I was done after 2 years.
Yeah.
So then went completely left brain and went into finance.
There you go.
Yeah. So what's the mission statement being what it is? What's the future for Halo in Kansas City? You talked about a couple of plans.
Yeah, I would say the capital campaign is our main focus right now.
Yeah.
So that'll end up being one building for the boys' home, one building for the girls' home, and one building that'll be like our office, headquarters, and learning center space.
Nice.
So I'm hoping that we'll continue to maintain the partnerships with shelters that we have now, and we can continue to offer those same services.
Perfect.
But we'll also have the chance to help a group of 48 young men and women get back on their feet the way they need to. Help them get an education, help them get scholarships if they want it. Like really try to get in and break that cycle of homelessness.
Yeah.
And continue to do that. Like I really do think that is what our focus is going to be. Perfect. From here on out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So if somebody wants to find out more about the Halo Foundation, how do they find that out?
So we have the website, Halo, like HALO, worldwide.org. And you can find out pretty well everything there. You can email us if you have questions, and even contact us if you'd like to come in for a tour or something. We do that a lot. We love to show people around the space, kind of show some of the art that our kids have done. Nice. And let people see the learning center and everything like that.
Yeah.
We do have a volunteer orientation coming up, I believe, on July 29th.
Okay.
And that information is also available on the website.
Okay.
I would say that because I think it's an 80-20 ratio on how many of our hours put in are volunteer hours. And
Gotcha.
We really, really rely on volunteers to be able to run a lot of our programming. And then we also like to ask that if somebody would like to get involved in more of like a donor capacity, we generally prefer monthly, I don't even know how to put it. If somebody wants to give $100, we would almost prefer to have $10 a month for 10 months than the $100 all at once.
Yeah.
And we call people who get involved in consistently donating, we call that our Halo tribe.
Nice.
And just things like that, if we have like a set number of months when we can rely on a certain amount of money, that really helps us to make and keep promises to the kids.
Right.
So if somebody wanted to get involved, that is a really cool way to do it, and it's a way that helps us out. You can even just do like $5 a month, but that sort of thing is really helpful.
Yeah.
Or if you want to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. I think all of it is either the Halo Foundation or Halo Worldwide.
Okay.
But if you just search the Halo Foundation, that's what you'll find on Facebook.
Perfect.
And that links to everywhere else. Also, other helpful things, we have an Amazon wish list too. So we have an Amazon wish list, and we have Meal Train. So if somebody wanted to get involved in more of like a physical goods capacity, we have a lot of workshops that we try to offer snacks or meals, and people can sign up to bring that in, or just like a list of ongoing needs on our Amazon wish list.
Yeah.
And any of that always really helps us out too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything I didn't hit?
Not sure. I hope I've done an okay job of explaining exactly what Halo is, because I don't know, it's a little bit hard to kind of concisely gather it up. But
yeah, well, there's a lot. I mean, like I said, it's you guys have a lot of areas of focus, but when you get into that area, you are focused on it.
Right,
so,
right.
I mean, it sounds like an organization that could just continue to it could continue to grow in its capacity, but it can also kind of continue to just grab more and more things to be able to help kids, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because an organization that's around for 10 or 15 years is fantastic, but if you're all of a sudden around for 40, then more and more areas where there are needs, and as long as you can get that consistent funding, you can get to them.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Well, that's perfect.
Yeah, that consistent, the private donor funding really does help us out. It's really nice to, I don't know, I think there are a lot of, red lines and constrictions, I guess, on if you are operating within a school district or et cetera, that sort of thing. And it really does, having the private donors really does open us up to a whole lot of other ways to help kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's really cool. But I think really most of what we're doing is trying to focus on providing housing through our housing programs, but also, the family love that comes with housing. So we like to say we don't just give you a bed to sleep in, but teach you to make it in the morning, that sort of thing. Yeah. And then our healing, a lot of that's through our art therapy. We kind of try to give kids a way to put the past down on paper in a way that will open them up to the future, right? And also, again, be going over those life skills as we're doing it. So that's always really inspiring to see. Yeah. And then the education piece of it, we are focusing now, especially I'm trying to bring in more that is strictly educational. Not even necessarily in terms of what's being taught in high schools, but again, those things that your family teaches you that often might slip through. So I think we have woodworking sometimes, and the sewing, and just little life skills like that, or education on health and hygiene, that kind of stuff, you know. So really those 3 pillars, I think, are the best way to talk about Halo.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, and it's awesome. I really do like the focus on, because I like the way that you put it about, you know, having to deal with the red line or red tape when you're talking about dealing within a school district. You're always going to have rules, and they're probably going to change constantly depending on who's in charge that year. With a private organization, you're able to, one, actually, you know, kind of get down and past those lines. But I think that becomes very, very important on that last subject you just talked about, which was the things that you don't know. I mean, those life skills are so important. I mean, I always get inspired when I see like a gym teacher take the kids out to his car and teach them how to change a tire. It's like, because nobody might have taught you that. And especially if you're in some of the situations that you've had. I mean, I didn't even think about it, but some of the, you know, hygiene issues are probably things that they just have no clue. And probably in a lot of scenarios, I assume probably are very uncomfortable asking anybody else. But when you bring that to them and say, what do you want to know? Or here are the things that you probably should. That's a very important thing, especially for a kid that's just, I mean, shy, embarrassed, whatever the case might be.
Right. It really does give us the opportunity to kind of build those relationships, and then also tailor what we're doing to the individual's needs too. Like, again, like if we're talking about school districts, you always have the curriculum and the standardization of everything like that. Like with Halo, we really do. I mean, it's almost an overwhelming amount of freedom, because we really can do whatever we need to help the kids that are in front of us.
That's perfect.
You know? It's really cool. I don't know if I mentioned this, but we were talking about hygiene, and another thing that's really cool about our workshops is we often provide power packs. So if a kid comes in and says, like, I don't have a backpack for school, then we can give them a backpack, and we always keep this supply closet full of shampoo, conditioner, toothpaste, hygiene products, you know, that sort of thing. And lately I've been doing more of letting kids like take a bag and just saying, okay, go get what you need. You know, that way, like, there's nobody watching, there's nobody, none of that sort of thing. They can just kind of take what they feel like they want. And that has been really nice too. I hope that is helping. But,
that's fantastic. And again, like, it's just being around that situation every day to know, like, I just need to let you alone to grab what you need.
Right.
I'll provide you the education on what that stuff is, but once you are in this situation, like, you take it, because that way they don't have to be embarrassed if they don't have shampoo or they don't have toothpaste or something like that.
Right. And I give them my card, because also our kids don't have to be in shelter to be eligible for our services. Like, to us, as soon as a kid if they are coming through our doors with a shelter, that makes them eligible for our services forever. So I always like to give them my card and say, listen, even after you leave Restart, regardless of the reason, you call me or email me or whatever anytime, and I can give you this stuff again. Like, next time you need toothpaste, next time you need diapers, next time you need toilet paper, like, call me, let me help you, save your freaking money. Like,
exactly.
You know, that kind of stuff. So that part has been cool too.
Yeah, that stuff's always going to be in the closet, whether it's you that takes it or somebody else. You need to take advantage of it.
Please come get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, unless you've got something else you want to talk about.
I don't think so.
Awesome. Well, if you ever think of it, just tell me that you want to come back on, and we'll go through the whole microphone issue again, and I'll trip over myself as much as I possibly can.
That sounds good.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's great.